Distribution provided by Cloud Sigma, the cloud that adapts to you.
Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by New Relic. Visit newrelic.com/twist and see why thousands of developers worldwide don't deploy without it. And by Squarespace, an all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website and now an online store. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TWIST6.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups, the program where we talk about making a dent in the universe, creating companies, being a founder, investing in these companies. And with me today, Joanne Wilson, the Gotham Gal herself, who I've known for 20 years, who helped me build my first business, who literally, like when I rang the cash register for the first time, she was the one who did it, really helped me jumpstart my career, one of my oldest friends, now angel investor in over 30 companies. Welcome to the program, Joanne Wilson.
Thank you.
God, we have a long history.
I know, it's crazy. Actually, I was thinking about this morning before I got here was about how when you, Josh Harris, me, and Fred sat around our table and did that podcast.
Oh yeah, that when you guys were doing the Wilson Family podcast like 10 years ago.
Exactly.
When podcasting first started, you guys were doing your own podcast. So for people who don't know, you and I worked together on Silicon Alley Reporter back in the 90s. I was a snot-nosed little bratty kid, and you were my pit bull salesperson who just built the entire company. Boy, did we have a fun time together.
We did have a fun time. It was great.
This was at the dawn of the internet era.
Yep.
Just when it started, 96, 97.
Yes, you were schlepping around 5 pieces of paper stapled together, and you were going to write about this like world that was going to happen.
The internet.
Yes.
And you had 3 kids.
Yes.
Were a stay-at-home mom at the time.
Yeah, I had 3 kids. I think Josh was like
2 or 3?
No, Josh was like 4 months old.
Yeah.
I was just, that's when I lost it. I was like, I cannot do this. I need to
work.
I need to use my brain.
And so I remember the day you showed up at Josh Harris's loft. I was doing an event, Ready, Set, Pitch. And you came, and that was I talked to Fred Wilson, your husband, famous venture capitalist, who at the time wasn't very famous, and we were friends. Well, I mean, listen, he was a venture capitalist in New York,
right? Which
was kind of like a joke, like you're a venture capitalist in New York.
That's right, and he made his mark. He said, I'm going to invest between downtown and 96th Street, and then
the water.
FDR and the West Side Highway.
Yeah, which at the time was pretty radical, considering there were no companies at the time worth investing in the footprint. But boy, did that work out for him.
Yes.
A lot of huge hits. And we worked together for a number of years. But putting that aside, some time ago, 5 or 6 years ago, you started angel investing. And the first company you angel invested in?
Curb Media.
Curb.com, of course.
Curb.com, so Curbed, Racked, and Eater.
Run by a tremendous entrepreneur who's been on the program twice, Lockhart Steele.
Yes.
And you've always been a foodie, I know that. We've shared many great meals together, and you've given me great recommendations. What was it about that entrepreneur and that business that made you want to, I think you were one of the first angel investors in it.
I had sort of been watching what was going on in the next generation of the web, right? Which to me was a hell of a lot more exciting than the first generation, as we all knew, watched them all implode flame out or whatever they did, but they were gone.
Yeah.
And I've been watching Lockhart from afar, and I had been an avid reader of all the sites. And I saw him at an event that we went to, and I talked to him, and I said, watching your sites, whatever. I love what he was doing. And at home, of course, I was talking about all the new companies that I was seeing out there. And Fred came home one day, and I had actually spoken to Nick Denton as well.
Yeah.
And said, Locke is, I hear he's looking for money.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? And Fred said, you should invest.
Yeah.
And I was like, seriously? He's like, you would be great at this. And I was like, all right. So I called Locke, I got together, and I put money in, and that was it.
And of course, Curbed covers real estate, food, everything.
And shopping.
And shopping, right. Eater, Racked, and Curbed. And he had worked previously at Gawker, but when you invested in him, still kind of an unproven entrepreneur. That was his first company himself.
Oh, totally.
So how do you get past when you're looking at a first-time entrepreneur, investing in them or not? Like, how do you know that they're going to make it or not, or they have a reasonable chance?
Certainly you get better as you go on, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, for me, it's all gut. Like, you just know. First of all, you have to like the business, right? And then, of course, you have to think the entrepreneur is going to be able to execute on this vision and not be so stuck on that exact vision, right? Because these companies evolve into something so completely different over time that if you're not open to that, you're never going to move forward, right? And so, I really liked Locke, and I thought what he was building was really the future of how we're going to consume content.
Right. Which is short, bite-sized, but very insidery. Like, he hires really knowledgeable people.
Yeah, and it's very snarky, which I think I like. And and I think that is the one thing at the level that I'm investing in is these things take time.
You gotta have patience.
You have to have a lot of patience, and I see angels that are involved get very frustrated, like, oh my God, now they're raising this much, and they haven't really done that much yet. And it's just like, you gotta believe. And you have to be supportive of the entrepreneurs in a positive way, not a negative way. It does nobody any good being negative.
Right.
Then, of course, unless things turn sour.
Right.
But, in general, I think that you also have to be a bit of their cheerleader and their sort of den mother.
It's hard enough as it is than to have your investors, who are supposed to be your cheerleaders, breathing down your neck about stuff.
Yes.
And if you did pick the person, then you've already kind of decided this is your spouse or this is your friend.
Yeah, you're married to these people.
You're married, so you might as well just love them for who they are.
Yeah. No, I mean, totally agree.
There's no use in picking somebody and then being bitter about it, as we...
No, it does not make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Like, I picked you as a spouse,
Right.
and now I'm going to hate you.
Exactly. There's a fine line between love and hate.
Right.
But I think it's important as an entrepreneur to have some investors that are totally passive,
Right.
and then a few that are engaged that can really help you move forward. It's like having a great doubles game, right? You get together every 4 to 6 weeks, and I actually force all of them to do that.
Wow.
To sit around a table with the right people and talk about where you're going, get out of the weeds, have a plan, what makes sense, who you're going to hire, where's the money going to go. And so, even though I'm a bit of a generalist in the way I invest, all of them have the same exact issues. Building the foundation is no different, really. It's just
And what do you think
different
the
content.
keys are? I mean, what do entrepreneurs need to get done in that first year? Because that's when you get in there, the first or second year. In that very nascent state, what are the things that people mess up the most and don't focus on enough that then comes back to get them?
Yeah, I think one of the things, too, is people get excited they have all this money and they think they can go wild, right? That is a big mistake. That's a huge mistake.
They just start spending on area on chairs or space and things that don't matter.
Well, they spend money on too many people. Right? You got to where you got because you were scrappy. Still be scrappy.
So they just start hiring because they think they can throw bodies at problems.
Yeah. I even see companies that are pretty mature that I think, what are all these people doing here?
Right.
Right? Isn't the point of building these technology companies to be lean and mean machines?
Right.
But whatever. And I think that is, number one, people do that. And I think the second thing is that the beginning is a lot of times you hire a bunch of people and then you realize, wow, I actually can now have a little more professional people and I actually know better what I need to do. So you have to make those tough decisions, moving people around, getting rid of the dead wood.
Right.
And I think now one of the most important things that I say to all the companies I'm investing in, figure out how you're going to make money.
Yeah.
Figure out how you money, you got to make revenues, and you have to have engagement. If you can figure out how to make money sooner than later and you can cover your nut, you get a longer runway.
Right.
And the longer your runway, the more you grow the company and the better your valuation becomes. And that's good for everybody.
Everything starts working out, less dilution. And Curbed really did figure out one thing early, just in the selection process. Real estate has a huge transaction size. The advertisers are brokers.
Yes.
And when they sell a home, they make $100,000 or more here in New York City, at least, and in LA and San Francisco, certainly. So they just had this built-in endemic advertising base that was extraordinary.
Yeah, well, the other thing is that what they have done is they've created a platform for the business model. So every architect, every real estate developer, every real estate broker reads it, but so do people that just are interested in what's happening in the real estate world.
Right.
And the same thing in Rack and the same thing in Eater. So it's a B2B platform, but it's a B2C platform too, which I think is really rare.
B2B to C.
Exactly.
It's sort of like Silicon Valley Reporter had a little bit of that. You had some people who are sort of consumers of technology and then a lot of people who are in the business of it. Let's talk about Mouth. We both invested in that. Craig Kanarick. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Kanarick.
And Sam, right.
Yeah. New York Mouth, but they announced today, actually, of all days, that they're going to be Mouth.com.
Yeah, today's the day.
Today's the day. Fantastic. Tell us about that business and why you invested in it.
That is an interesting business. I first met with Craig and Sam. I love those guys. First of all, they're gray hair. They've both built businesses.
Razorfish, a huge business.
Razorfish, and Sam actually has built a serious family business that he ended up selling. So these guys know how to build a business and they understand how to run an operation.
So you like a little gray hair in that?
I like the little gray hair,
yeah.
and I also like that. Craig is the creative and Sam is the operator. Right?
So some balance between the founders?
There's a total balance between the founders. And I know that there's other businesses that have come before them that have been debacles in the same sort of space. But I think they actually understand it, and timing in life is everything.
And what is the space, and then how does it...
Well, you can't drop ship. You have to actually buy the food and package it intelligently and ship it. You have to be a commerce store in a brick-and-mortar way online.
And so Mouth is selling... For people who don't know.
Indie food, from the best beef jerky to the best hot sauces to the best chocolates.
Yeah.
They're about to get, I believe, their liquor license, which is going to be a huge score, which is one of the things I said at the very beginning. You guys got to get a liquor license. I mean, that's a marketing phenomenon.
Right.
And
that's something that came out in one of your rap sessions with them, or just hanging out saying like, hey, where are we going to take this business?
Yeah.
Liquor is just so clear.
Liquor is so clear.
In California, at least. That is New York. Can you ship in New York?
You can. You need a brick and mortar store in order to ship. Certainly, certain states you can't ship to.
Right.
But the liquor laws are changing. I mean, you can see they're changing because everyone is making these small indie products, right? These tiny distilleries are popping up. So they're only popping up because the laws are changing.
Got it. And do you think the indie food movement is something that's like a national trend? It took a little while for Whole Foods to make its way outside of the major cities, but it does seem like they're having Whole Foods in every major city across the United States. Do you think this is something that'll make its way to Milwaukee or Detroit or
I think
Florida?
It's already in those cities. Absolutely, not even a question.
Right.
I think this next generation is very interested in doing things that they love, being a cobbler, being a pickle maker, being a chocolatier, making T-shirts, right? Things that they really care about. People kind of going back to their roots. Yeah. And then with the whole, people getting sick and bad things happening, and our food laws are a disaster. That we basically make products based on 1930 or 1940 laws. Right. I think that there's a lot of people that are like saying, I want to know what I'm eating, and
who made it,
and I want to support local merchants that are making things that taste good, that are providing income for them, and I know what's coming into my body.
Yeah, and so Mouth.com is the site. I'm an investor in it too, full disclosure, and people just go crazy for this product.
People stay on that thing for like 10 minutes is the average engagement.
They just
amazing.
Hang out on the site forever.
You hang out because you're like, oh my God, this is so good, this is so good, this is so good.
The chocolate is ridiculous. It's it's just like
the best
pickles.
is going there Friday, because Friday is tasting day.
Oh, at their offices.
At their offices.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes.
And so they inventory this stuff,
They inventory it. Like they were down in South Carolina, I think it was, and they met this guy who had taken red peppers and extracted it and created this amazing hot sauce. He had made 250 jars, and they're like, we'll take them all. Because this guy's never going to ship. Right? You want something to come in a beautiful bag, great marketing, and that's your product, right? You don't want something coming from 19 different locations, and the one guy who's shipping the pepper sauce is like, I'm going to get to it today.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And so you were talking earlier about staffing and like sort of upgrading staff being a hard thing. How do you get entrepreneurs through that like really hard decision to like, the people who got us here are not the ones who are going to get us there to the next level. And we may need to fire them or give them a boss. I mean, how do you have that discussion with the entrepreneurs who are, I think, sometimes pig-headedly loyal to the people who got them there? And rightfully so, right?
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But But I think that all of them are pretty savvy and pretty smart and know what they want their dreams to come true, right? And as painful as it is, they do it. I mean, I remember one entrepreneur I had, I missed the board meeting. I don't know why. I couldn't make it, whatever. And so I talked to her like 3 days later. I said, I just want to know what happened in the meeting. She said, well, everyone says my burn rate is too high. So what's your burn rate? I said, it is too high. You need to cut $75,000 a month on that thing.
Yeah.
She goes, they said I should do this. I said, tomorrow. You fire those people tomorrow.
Right.
And it was painful.
Yeah.
But once you do it,
take the medicine.
you're an adult.
Yeah. It's not easy, but the life of the business is more important than the feelings of a couple of individuals, or your feelings even.
That's right.
You have to transcend that.
And it's all about, how you tell the message.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And what else have you invested in recently, previously?
Recently, I have a couple that are in the pipeline.
Right.
I just invested in a company called Mercaris.
Mercaris, what is it?
Really smart woman entrepreneur down in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
She is basically building a commodity site for the organic and non-GMO market. It's a $31 billion business marketplace today. We can only imagine where it's going to go.
Organic and non-GMO.
So not
genetically modified, right?
Right, products. So
Right.
there is no marketplace. So if you are Whole Foods and you have
Right.
to go out and buy 1,000 pounds of organic flour because you're making organic cupcakes at your stores, what price do you lock into? Who's making this stuff? Where are you getting it from? I mean,
Right.
there's literally no up-to-date daily information in this stuff.
No infrastructure.
None.
Yeah, and the laws, we almost passed in California you have to label GMO food, just like in Europe, I guess they banned it, or in some places it's been banned, or you have to label it at least.
I'm sure we're going to get there.
New York seems to have done an amazing job around food. What do you think of what Bloomberg's done in terms of forcing calories, banning big gulps, all this kind of stuff?
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'd sign up for him for another 4 years.
Another 50?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I think most people feel. I mean,
Mayor King.
Mayor King. Listen, we're obviously a very democratic city, and I
Right.
think that sometimes in a democratic city, it's great to have a Republican mayor,
Right.
Because they're pushing issues through that actually create a better financial workplace.
Right.
And he's done a great job. I mean, the city is in great shape, and he has given everyone these incredibly long leashes to build communities and companies. And I think that has been a real match behind the tech industry in New York City.
Compare Silicon Valley 1.0 and 2.0 now. I mean, it's a massive transformation. Obviously, worked together during the first one when just starting a company in New York was like a handicap. Seems to be an advantage.
And it's
these
costly.
days. Costly, a handicap, and there was no support system in place.
No, there
Today?
wasn't. I was the support system.
Exactly. Yeah, we were Silicon Valley Reporter.
Totally the support system.
Right, yeah.
Everyone calls, I'm starting a business. Who should I use as a lawyer and who should I use as an accountant?
Right. There's 3 people. Jay Rand and
Jay Rand, who I still use. He's
Right.
still my lawyer. I love Jay. I think one of the things that has changed is it's not as expensive to start a business, right? And we are such a unique city that as technology moves forward, every industry can be and will be changed and disrupted. Even though I hate the word disrupted, I'm so over it. But essentially,
reinvented, disrupted.
right? And so you've got media, you've got hospitals, healthcare, you've got fashion, you have, now we're starting to make products here again. So you've got all these different industries, and you have all of these people in the tech industry changing each of those industries individually. So they sit in this really strange place. On one hand, they're in that particular industry they're changing, but on the other hand, they're in the tech community, right? And there is support from both sides of the fence, because everyone knows that the future is going to be very different than the way we use any of those products today.
Yeah. And in New York, talent seems to be at an all-time high. A lot of people leaving San Francisco to start companies in New York. Codecademy is here. Union Square is a backer of them. They went to Y Combinator, and then they came back to house themselves here.
Would you want to live here?
Of course, the best city in the
It's
world.
the best city in the world.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah.
just moving back.
I mean, to me, I don't understand why you would want to live out there.
Yeah, San Francisco is kind of a rough place to live. It's very one-dimensional compared to New York, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Hey, so when we get back from the commercial break, I want to talk about female founders.
Okay.
Everybody talks about funding them. You're actually doing it. And I want to get an idea of, God, I got to be really politically correct because I'm a guy. But just how is this changing? Are we seeing more female founders actually starting? Because it seems like a lot of them don't even start. And how is that changing in the marketplace when we get back from this very important commercial break? Hey, what a great episode of This Week in Startups we're having. And this episode is made possible by my friends at New Relic. They are absolutely crushing it. What a great startup. They're doing fantastic as a company. I've heard all kinds of great things from people in the business community about them. But we use them here for their amazing web and mobile app monitoring. It makes all of our real-time applications faster and more seamless. And see here, here's the browser load time, and I can see at different points in time how my web app is doing. And I see, the memcache is taking a long time, or maybe the database or Ruby. What's taking time with my app? As you know, speed is the best feature you can add to any web app. Stability is one of the best features of any piece of software. If you can add stability and speed and constantly work on that and have that transparency inside your organization, you're going to win, and you're going to win big as an internet company. So you want to monitor the real user experience, as you can see there. You're also going to want to monitor things like, the servers and exactly what's taking time there. And I hate to say this in a negative way, but you need to know who to blame when things are not going well. Is it your developer? Is it your co-location facility? Is it your hosting company? Is it your CDN? Are you out of memory? Is it Ruby? What the hell's going on your server, and how do you optimize that? It's critical for you to know that. And we use it here for the Launch Ticker and for This Week in Startups. And we get these great emails, and these emails go to the whole staff. So we can see oh my God, we've got 10,000 views this week. Well, that's a pretty good week. And we see, oh my God, our uptime was 100%. Fantastic. I look at the views and the uptime because that's and the error rate is just, 0.03. It's nothing, which is, just very normal. And our uptime was 100% every day. Our load time was about 5 seconds a page. We have very big pages with a lot of images, so that's the full-on load time. And our responsive time, just really good to see the error rate, and the CPU utilization is 1%. That's great. Plenty of memory, and the database is doing fine. All those things let us check off, hey, we don't need to add more servers. But, hey, at some point, the database may start grinding. Page loads may take longer, and you say, we need to get this database going. You want to trust your service, just like Skullcandy, Spotify, Nike, Zillow, and Vonage have, to our friends at New Relic. They do a great job. And so many people who've been on the program say they use New Relic. And they made a great T-shirt. One of our fans designed this very cool T-shirt. And if you create a free account over there by going to newrelic.com/twist, NEWRELIC.com/twist, as in This Week in Startups, and you sign up for a free account, which is super easy and fast with no credit card, you can get that Twist shirt. So again, please go to newrelic.com/twist, newrelic.com/twist, newrelic.com/twist. Developers across the spectrum trust the critical performance of their apps to New Relic, and you should too. Everybody thank at New Relic on their Twitter account. And I personally thank you guys over at New Relic. I really appreciate it. And gals, for supporting the program. Let's get back to this great interview. And welcome back. I'm here with Joanne Wilson, massively prolific angel investor, 35 investments, Curbed, Mouth.com, and many others, 52, Food 52, a bunch of them. Female entrepreneurs, female founders. Gosh, and I remember in Web 1.0, we saw none of them. There were one or two. They were just this weird, oh my God, there's a female founder. And you had your Meg Whitmans or, professional, CEOs who were brought in a later stage, but you never saw a female founder starting something. It was so rare. I mean, iVillage being one of the few exceptions, Geraldine Laybourne, I guess. But today, a lot more. And you're investing in them. Why are you investing in so many disproportionately to the percentage of women who are starting businesses?
Well, I started blogging 10 years ago.
Gotham Gal.
Gotham Gal. And I started blogging because I didn't want to lose my cred in the industry, of course. But what happened is the industry changed.
Right.
So all these people that I thought were going to continue sort of fade into the woodwork, right? And so what I talk about, actually someone said this to me this morning, she goes, I love reading you is because it's I know who you are. It's like you're talking to me. We're having a conversation, and I'm following you on the path of your life.
Right.
And so it resonated with females.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I started hearing from all these female entrepreneurs. And, you know, first there was one, then there was a second, and I kind of became this chick magnet. And the theme was constant, which was nobody wants to fund me.
Interesting. And do you think there's a bias by the male VCs and male angel investors to sort of look at a female founder and say, probably not going to go at it as hard as a male founder?
I think it is a subconscious decision. Yes. I
So
don't
consciously
think
they think they don't have bias.
But they do.
But they do.
they absolutely do. Some of the comments that come out of their mouth are shocking.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Share. I mean, not with the specific. Don't tell me
won't
who
tell
said
you-
it.
I will not tell you who said
Please.
it. Here's one. So you're married. Are you going to get pregnant? Because I really don't want to invest in someone who's going to have a kid. So, you know, this is really good business. I think it's amazing what you've built, but you know what? You'll probably exit at $30 million, so I'll never really get my money out.
Right.
I mean, these are the type of conversations. Oh, you know, is there a guy in there? I want to talk about, do you have spending habit problem? You know, I want to make sure you're spending the money right.
Right.
Really? I built this.
So they basically, in their mind, think women are going to do it for some period of time until they start making babies, and then it's over.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right. But the funny thing is, and I'm invested in men and women,
Right.
is that women cross their T's and dot their I's, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
Right.
But I will tell you, if you look at the statistics about success, those women, and every single one that I'm invested in, failure is not an option for them. They don't care if it's a longer runway to get there. They will make it happen. And they listen, and they calculate, and they analyze, and they are interested only in success.
And you think they're upping their game to a level because they know the spotlight's on them, they know that people are discounting them?
No, I think they're upping their game because they're passionate about what they're doing.
Yeah.
And listen, there's not even a question that there are companies that I've invested in that I believe will be $50 million companies.
Right.
Others that will be $200 million companies. And others could be $1 billion company, right? But the reality is that VCs invest in companies and they'll tell you, we're only interested in investing in companies that we believe will be $1 billion, right?
Right.
But the truth is, they invest in a lot of companies that end up exiting at $50 into $100 million, right? And so you never know where they're going to end up. That $1 billion business could be so poorly executed on that it ends up being worth nothing. And so as these women start building their businesses and they actually have traction and they are making money, I believe that they will have a lot more people looking at them on their next go around and not this one.
So maybe they're not as, maybe the market today is this unconscious bias where there was outright bias previously. I mean, there were VCs and who just say, I just don't invest in women. Why would you do that? Now it's sort of like, oh, of course I'll invest in women, but maybe some slight bias. And you're actually attracted to them because do you think they're actually higher performers than men right now?
I have not lost one yet.
Huh. Interesting. So maybe there is. Maybe you think they take it with more, they have more diligence in how they perform, like a little bit?
Yeah, I do.
A little more diligent?
You know what? They're not as cocky and they're not, you know, sort of like highfalutin, like I can do anything, and I need this valuation and I'm going to get this and I know what I'm doing, and even though they don't know what they're doing. I mean...
So the ego thing with men is like, I think sometimes people like the ego of like the brash CEO, but a lot of times that sends you just way off track.
You know, it depends on the person on the other side of the table.
Right.
Right? I would like to see more women be a little cockier.
Interesting. You think that's they're not leaning in enough as much or just not taking as much risk?
I don't think it's risk. I just think it's how they present themselves.
More muted, you think, or
I think just
understated?
a little more calculating.
Huh.
You know, not so freewheeling and not so like, yo, I built this thing. And if you don't like it, I'm out of here.
Yeah. They got to be a little more aggressive in that regard.
I think they should be.
Yeah.
But they become that way after they start trying to get people to give them money. Once all of a sudden they're out there looking for money and they see, wow, we doubled our business this month. Like, they start to get a lot more confident when they go out and get money.
And I think that's probably part of the role you play is like, hey, let's make the numbers go up. And then, hey, things get pretty confident. When we worked together, you took the revenue of Silicon Alley Reporter from, $10,000 a month to $100,000 in 6 months. I became a pretty cocky guy. I was like, my business is doing great. No, but it's true. Revenue.
Yes, it changes everything.
It changes everything. But
That's
people
right.
don't tend to focus on it. In fact, your husband, Fred, was a good friend of mine, an investor in my company. Actually, you're an investor in my company.
I am
You're an angel
investor in your
investor.
company.
You're invested. The Wilsons are investors in Inside.com, famously known as Mahalo.com. I'll give you an update on that later. He's kind of a swing for the fences, don't worry about revenue guy. You guys are kind of opposite in that approach.
Yeah, but I also think that was a time, right? I mean, there was a time when the entire conversation was like, if you get the eyeballs, we'll figure it out, right? If you grow your business big enough and you have this many people that are engaging, it's going to be worth something, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think now that the businesses that are being built, that could be from helping large companies do a better job of what they're doing, whatever it may be, I don't think people really have to understand what eyeballs are going to translate into revenue.
Yeah, so a Tumblr with a lot of consumers and 12 to 15-year-olds is going to need a lot of eyeballs in order to monetize, and they seem to have done that successfully. Yeah. But for somebody who's doing e-commerce or software as a service, those eyeballs are worth a magnitude more.
Yeah, and so I think a lot of the businesses that they're looking at, that he's looking at going forward, are not so like, I don't care about the revenue model.
Tell me about kitchen surfing. That one to me is fascinating.
It's a great business.
Tell me, why? What is it?
Well, Chris Muscarella is the entrepreneur behind that. Very calculating, very smart guy. Even calculating in who he wanted to be his investors on the first round.
Very good.
And
that's always a good sign, isn't it, when they care about who's giving them the money?
Yeah, and he did it in a way that listen, it was a great idea. It is a great idea.
What is the idea?
The idea is that chefs, and heavily curated at this point, can come and create their own site on kitchen surfing, right?
A profile, yeah.
A profile of who they are, what they cook, who they cook for, what sample menus, and then you go on the site and say, I want to have a dinner party for 12 people. This is what I want to spend. I want Italian food, and people will come back and bid on it.
So you outline it, then they bid.
They can bid. I think that is, it will evolve into other things, right?
That's revolutionary, though. I love that idea because I have a dinner party, and I'm like, I got to find a chef, and then negotiating with them. You always feel like when you're negotiating with a chef, like that it's almost like, I want to have this be really special, so I don't want to have you cutting the cost. I want you to make it wonderful.
Right.
It's almost like,
it's all relative what you want to spend. If you want to have 4 people or 5 people and you want to spend $200, that's going to dictate what the meal is.
Yeah.
But it's up to the chef to be creative to make that happen.
Right.
Right? And so...
Be a hell of a roast chicken.
Right. So you're giving a lot of these people that are in an industry that, you have these accolades of these phenomenal chefs. They're not making that much money, right?
Yeah, the guys at Mario Batali's place or Gordon Ramsay's place, they're making minimum wage or $10 an hour or something. The line cooks.
So they can go on kitchen surfing and they could actually make a name for themselves. I mean, there was one guy that I hired last summer who's terrific, and he went on to open a restaurant, and I put money in his restaurant.
So they can really get their legs under them there, and and people bid on your dinner. That's interesting.
Right.
A lot of people are getting these also like chefs to do it on a regular basis for them. I noticed that trend in LA. That would be a great thing for them to do too.
I think LA is one of the next stops.
LA is amazing because what people are doing in LA, even in Palo Alto, I notice every time I go to somebody's house, they open their like Sub-Zero huge refrigerator and it's like boxes and boxes of food, like those glass containers with dates and like, here's my quinoa, here's my kale salad.
Well, you could have someone come and do that for you for the week. I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? But you have access to someone who's a fantastic chef.
Sort of like Airbnb, a collaborative consumption of chefs.
100%.
That's a brilliant idea. Scoot Networks, that's another great one. You and I both scooter riders around Manhattan for a long time.
Exactly.
And Scoot actually launched at the Launch Festival 2 years ago. How did you find out about them and They're only in San Francisco, correct? Tell us
They're
about
only in San
Scoot.
Francisco,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny. I generally don't do any deals in San Francisco, but my husband told me about them, and I called and talked to Michael, and I really liked what he was doing because I got it.
Right.
And I said, why San Francisco? Like, of all the places to launch a Scoot business,
Yeah.
right? They're actually breaking even. They're doing
Yeah.
well in their first round, which is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, they got like 20 of them, 30 of them, $25 a day. or something.
I don't know the exact
I ran
numbers.
into him at the street when I was there last time.
but
and-
he's doing fantastic. He's a great entrepreneur.
But that's made for New York.
It's made for New York. Well, the truth is, it's made for any urban city.
Dense city, like a European city, which
London,
Barcelona.
Paris, Barcelona, New York, Boston would be good.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. And Food 52, that's another great one. How are they doing?
They're doing really well. They just closed their Series A, I want to say 6 months ago, with some really great investors, and they are starting to kick off their e-commerce platform in a bigger way.
Let's talk about Mouse. I'm here in New York. I flew in.
I know.
Because
thank you.
you've got, you're being honored tonight for the 15th anniversary of Mouse, making opportunities to upgrade schools and education. Nonprofit founded by, I think, Andrew Richet, and then you were the executive director for a good portion of time. Tell us, what is Mouse, and how did you wind up getting involved in it?
I'm going to tell that story tonight.
We'll tell it here to my audience first.
So, going back down memory lane, so I knew about Mouse, right? And, we were also involved in, like, our own lives in the industry. I mean, one day was like a year.
Yeah. There's
right?
a lot going on in the 90s.
There was a lot going on that time period. It was, like, insane.
Yeah.
And so the first event that we put on from the Rising Tide Summit.
Right, I remember.
Which took place at the New York Historical Society on
where is that?
It's on 78th, 77th in the park.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, Andrew brought on stage 10 kids from high school who had never touched and never seen a computer and had never had any access to technology.
Wow. Yeah, it's very powerful, yeah.
It was. And I remember everyone in the room, and I was one of them, was like,
how's that
oh my
possible?
God,
Yeah.
right? Everything we're doing is about technology.
Yeah.
Okay, if those kids don't understand technology, have no access to technology.
And this was like 97, 98, 99, like time frame, probably.
Yeah,
97.
yeah, so 97.
Yeah.
How are we going to build our companies?
Right.
Who are the next generation of entrepreneurs?
Right.
And so...
And consumers and everything, yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
And so I met with him. I met with Sarah, Sarah Holloway, who was, really the co-founder as well.
Yeah.
And then I left you.
Yeah. Brutal. It's all right. We had Keith Long. We had good foundation.
That's right.
We were still on the upswing.
And
the year after you left, we tripled in revenue.
Yes, and then that was the.
But you grew from 0 to 4.
And Andrew called me every day for 3 weeks at 3:00 on the dot. Hey,
it's Andrew.
And finally, he's like, whatever you want, you could chair it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
okay,
I like that.
Sure.
And so that was it.
And you started working on that. And what did Mouse do during that sort of period? What were some of the highlights, some of the achievements, accomplishments?
I think the biggest accomplishment was the second year in, we raised $1 million at the event that took place at the Armory.
Right.
Again, it was a different time, right? I raised, I think, $850,000 of that through emails. I mean, there was so much money flowing, right?
Yeah, just everybody was taking companies public.
Everybody was going crazy. Oh, yeah, I'm in 50, 25, sure, no problem.
Great, let's go.
There was no, development. You had to, hang out with these people, even have a cup of coffee.
Right.
And, by doing that, we grew an incredible base of an organization that depended on public money, private money, not public money, right?
Which is very innovative at the time when you think about it, because that's really where a lot of philanthropy has gone, is just private money to fund public, good.
Yeah. And then eventually, they became involved, and the Board of Education pays them. But if they didn't have that original private money, that would never have happened. And then there was a lot of dart shooting, like, should we try this program, try this program? Of course, it was becoming wireless. We didn't need to crawl through ceilings to put in wiring.
The initial idea was to put internet in schools in New York.
That's right.
Because there was no money
to do it.
to do it.
That's right. And then it became
And there were
wireless.
unions and stuff like that trying to stop people from putting it in. I
Yes.
remember one of the first weekends we went to George Washington School, was that right? Or
Washington Irving.
It's on Irving Place, 15th Street,
Yeah.
or 16th Street, I think, in Manhattan.
16th Street.
And Irving Place. And we actually ran the cables. Nicholas Butterworth, myself, you, I think, Andrew Roche, everybody,
was a
Gordon Gould
major
was there.
event.
We literally put the internet in a school
yes.
and ran the cables to the computer classroom.
That's right. And what's interesting is that, the Calvin Hastings actually came up with this concept of Mouse Squad, which is we basically handpick a group of people in high school and now in junior high school as well because technology has changed. And that group of people are the IT department for every school.
The students are the IT
students
department.
are the IT department, right?
Right.
So there is still no ITP department in the entire education system of New York City because unions, it's too expensive. Nobody could afford these people, right? So what happens to these kids is they become leaders in their community. They have access to technology, right? They get excited about technology and they know more than anyone else that this is their ticket.
Right.
It's their ticket to their future.
Yeah. I mean, if they're the IT department in high school and junior high school, they're going to have a kick-ass job when they graduate.
That's right.
Amazing.
Right. And so, most of them actually go on to higher education because, and they have their own community among them, right? So they have all these other people that are into technology. So yeah, they have their friends, but it's a community of their own within the school, which is really important too. And it's vertical, it's not horizontal. So you've got kids from 9th to 12th grade that are part of this group.
And the New York City school system, has it become a complete, total disaster, or has Bloomberg been able to make some progress on it?
He has made
Yeah.
some progress. I mean, you've got a $26 billion business. I mean, it really should be blown up and start over again. I think
Yeah.
regents are a joke. I think that unions are terrible. I mean, I could go through a million different things. But, funny enough, Fred and I just started a public high school that he'd been knocking on the door of the Board of Education for years. And all of a sudden one day, like, okay, let's do it, which is at Washington Irving High School.
And that's the computer school.
That's right.
What's the name of it?
The Academy for Software Engineering.
The Academy of, and you and Fred did this.
Yes. And so this is teaching STEM, right? But I don't think that's the end-all be-all either. I mean, there needs to be arts and music and computer
Well,
science.
it'd be great to have a STEM school in the system that's specialized in it.
Particularly
we have
in
Juilliard
New York,
and whatever,
where you
yeah.
have, Bronx Science, you've got Stuyvesant, you have these sort of individual, unique schools. But, and next year they're going to roll that curriculum for the ability for 10 other schools to use it. And I think they're starting a couple other of these schools, so there'll be one in each borough.
Oh, wow.
The hardest part was finding teachers, to teach these curriculums.
Right. They don't exist in the New York City school system
There
as
was
it is.
one computer science school in Bed-Stuy,
Do or die.
in Stuyvesant,
Yeah.
which is why
Yeah.
it was just like, are you kidding?
So you had to go outside the school system and try to find them or recruit.
In the end, I don't know exactly how they went about recruiting
Yeah.
them, but yeah.
Hey everybody, what a great interview we have today for you on This Week in Startups, and it is brought to you by our friends at Squarespace. Squarespace offers 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support for creating the most beautiful, the most exceptional looking sites you've ever seen on the internet, and they're always adding new features. Instantly create an online store, so you don't need to pay and have a huge expense. You have your Squarespace account, and boom, all of a sudden you're selling product. It's great. Calendars, beautifully and easily share events on your site. These are the things that as you build your web business, small business, medium-sized business, even large business, you're going to need reliable, great features like this, and Squarespace keeps adding them. And you know what? They don't charge you a whole bunch extra, so you can really get into this for a great price. Every site has its own automatically resized mobile version. So many times you might have hired somebody on Craigslist or one of those like freelance sites on the web, and they built your website on WordPress or something, I don't know. And then you're beholden to them to go find that developer, get their email address, and then rebuild the site. Not with Squarespace. Squarespace is always going to be up and running and always going to be adding great features because the company is doing so well. They're making so much money. They're doing so well. They're such a solid, great company in New York that they keep reinvesting those dollars into making a better product. It's very similar to some of the other sponsors we have where they just keep reinvesting and making a better and better and better product. And we love it here. We use it as well. And here's the new feature, calendars. You can just add beautiful calendars to your website, nice and easy. And people, like so if you had a band or if you had a club or something like that, or even a business, boy, you can just add these beautiful, gorgeous calendars. And you can do other things like have just gorgeous shopping on your site, and it's mobile, which is great. Everybody wants to have a beautiful, fast, responsive mobile site. Here's this Truth and Lies, where you can buy a bunch of different T-shirts. Easy, add to your cart, looks gorgeous. Another ABK, custom leathercraft. I want to get some of these shoes. Wait, they're for women. Oh, wait, they have some for men. There you go. Where's that, man? There's a good-looking pair of men's shoes over here. I think that's men. I want those. 547 beans, but those are pretty gorgeous. I think, wow, look at that. And look, it's gorgeous, responsive, beautiful images. That's what they do really well there, because they're a New York company. They really understand design, and they understand commerce. No credit card is required. It starts at only $8 a month. Here's another beautiful site. Look at this one, Molecular. Gorgeous, beautiful sites built with Squarespace, automatically resizing to do mobile. They call that fluid design. And so $8 a month. You decide to keep the site after the trial. Just use the code TWIST6, TWIST6. So after your trial, if you decide to keep going, use TWIST6 so you can get a nice discount. Everything you need to create an exceptional website at squarespace.com, squarespace.com, squarespace.com. I say beautiful website, you say squarespace.com. I say e-commerce and calendars on your website, say squarespace.com. Everybody go ahead and thank Squarespace, and I thank them very personally for supporting the program for so many years and making such a great product that we love and enjoy here at Launch and This Week in Startups. Let's get back to this great interview. Thanks, Squarespace. And so your kids are all going off to college. When we met, they were all kids, babies, in fact. What's next for you? I mean, you got the empty nest now, I think. Last one's going to college.
Last one's going to college.
You going to start a venture firm or just
No,
a proper angel fund? Or what do you think?
I've been asked to do that so many times. I have a bunch of people that come in after me in every deal I do. I don't want to be responsible for other people's money.
Yeah.
I really don't. I mean, if I decide to take off for 3 weeks, I don't want someone to say, why are you doing that, right? And I'm happy to engage those people, and I'm happy to educate those people what it means to be an angel investor, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a much better way than them just writing me a check. And, I also put on this conference every year. We're going into our 4th year in January, called the Women's Entrepreneur Festival, which I do with the ITP department at NYU.
Oh, okay. So, and
which
when
is
that?
a great event. It's in January.
In January. Female founders or aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah, anyone from people that are 18 to 65 basically attend the event. You have to apply to come.
And how many people come?
Last year was 300.
300? Is 300 women?
Yeah.
Any guys come or no?
Actually, 3 guys came this year.
For security? The AV guy?
Exactly.
Guy who was working the coffee?
Yeah.
I want to come to that. Maybe I can sneak in and get an invite.
Yeah, apply.
Exactly, apply to get. Maybe I can interview somebody or something.
Yeah, no, it's a great event.
What do you think is the thing that tips a woman over from not being a founder to being a founder? What do you think is that moment? Is there something that they see another female entrepreneur or something that happens inside them that makes them want to make that jump that we can sort of focus in on and make more happen? Or is it just a matter of time?
I think it's a matter of time. If you look, most women are older that start companies. They're not 22 and 23, right? And that's on average. That isn't the norm.
Right.
But if you look at women's businesses over time, women tend to build businesses that fill voids in their life.
Interesting.
Right? I mean, I'm sure Robin Chase from Zipcar basically said one day, wow, wouldn't it be great if I could? And there you go. And now she built Zipcar, right? So if you look at things that women have built over the years, refrigerators, ladders when there's a fire that would drop through a window. I mean, things that filled voids in their lives.
Which is really, if you think about it in terms of consumption, if you build something that you yourself want, you're going to have pretty great product insight. And there's definitely going to be a market, whether the market's one person or 1%.
Or thousands of people or millions of people, right? And certainly with the flatter world, you can have more people like yourself out there that maybe be interested in your product. So I think we're going to see more women entrepreneurs. I mean, I have figured out how to have balance as being an entrepreneur, working, and then having a family, right?
How did you figure that out? What do you think the keys are? Because that is, my wife's going through this right now. She wants to be an entrepreneur. She has a little one at home. She wants to have another little one possibly. And having a baby and taking care of a child is a full-time job in and of itself. And there's tremendous feelings of guilt if you're not with the child at all times. That can happen. You balanced it. What's your advice to women who are trying to figure out how to balance having a family? It doesn't seem like men seem to have a problem with it.
Yeah, men have no problems with it. I would say...
I feel guilty sometimes.
A couple things is, first of all, women that are waiting to have children, don't wait.
Just have them.
Have them.
Right.
Do it. Have them as soon as you can. As
If you
soon
wanna
as you
have
start
them-
thinking about it, have a child.
Right.
You will figure it out. That's number one.
Huh.
And number two is, you have to decide what's important to you, right? If you really want to go out and do something and start a business and, be around for your children too, you'll figure out how to balance it, right? I mean, for me, I got off the train, I got on the train, I've done that twice. But I set goals and I set parameters. So I took the kids to school and then I went off to work. And there was a point where I also picked them up from school. And so my life was basically within that small time period.
Right.
And then at one point I'd have to have that small time period because nobody cared if I wasn't home until 5:30.
Right.
But I did want to make dinner and I wanted us to sit down as a family. So I figured I had to juggle my life around that. And then the beautiful thing is I went to every basketball game because I could.
Right.
Right? So I think it's just a matter of figuring out your priorities.
And defining it to a certain extent. It sounds like you had really good time management strategy.
Well, I'm like a freak of nature when it comes to organization. So
Right.
yes, you do have to be very, very, very organized.
You got to spend some time with my wife because she gets just absolutely over. And I have like here I'm in New York for just 72 hours. I start to feel a little bit guilty about not being around my daughter, even though it's like a 2 or 3 day trip. I used to always take a week trip to New York. God, I'm gonna take a couple of Knicks games in and not that's that. Oh, God, brutal.
So sad.
Did you ever have that I'm missing my kids, something or?
Yeah, but then when you get back and they see you, then what do you remember? That you were gone for 3 days?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's life. And I think that it's important for kids if you really want, you are the ultimate role model, right? For your children, right? And if they see that you don't have a life for yourself, I don't think that's healthy either.
Right. Yeah, it kind of must make them feel good to see my dad and my mom are hardworking and getting stuff done in the world.
Yes.
You got to set that example as well.
Right. I mean, I think that Fred and I have set that example for our children.
Yeah, your kids turned out wonderful. My God, they're all doing incredibly well, going to good schools and out of the house, most importantly. Well, Joanne Wilson, this has been absolutely fantastic. Everybody follow @the Gotham Gal. And if you're a female founder, this is the person you want to break bread with, and this is your number one target in terms of getting an investor. What do you look for? You said your gut, but there's got to be some tangible things that entrepreneurs need to have. I mean, you don't want people coming to you with ideas. You want to see a product.
I want to see a product. I want to see traction. I want to see a roadmap, right? Granted, 0 at this point, right? But I also, I've always been sort of a generalist and taking a bunch of information from different places. And so, the woman who literally cold emailed me with this Mercaris, right? I read the deck. By the way, I answer every email and I read every deck. And I give feedback and I say I can meet you or not meet you, but I'm always nice.
Right.
And I said, this is really interesting, and sort of engaged her in conversation, right? And then as we started talking and I started understanding what she was building and why she was building it, I mean, both of us started thinking big and having conversations and what it meant. And so I think that is the connection that you talk to someone. So when they're sitting on the other side and you sort of become like these two girls, Carla and Kimberly, who are the entrepreneurs between Have to Have. When I first met them, and actually had this conversation with them the other day, I thought, this is a stupid business. I like them, but I don't like these businesses, right? And I said, you don't
like social shopping kind of stuff.
It was, you make money on affiliate fees, which make 0 sense to me. $100 million business, you get 10%. It's not a business.
Right.
So
or 5%,
or whatever it may be, right? And
on,
everyone's like, oh yeah, they're totally into it. Like they just want money wherever they can get money. These affiliates. And so they came back to me over the course of the summer, and they kept me engaged with what they were doing. And they realized 2 weeks into this business, it was not going to work.
It was a dog.
It was a dog, and they completely pivoted the business. And then they started working, got back to me. We had a conversation. They got back to me again, and we sat down, and they brought their CTO with them, and we started talking about what they had built, and we had this amazing conversation about Now this is a business. It could do this, it could do this, it could do that. And I thought to myself, this is the kind of entrepreneurs I want to back.
Right.
These women are going to figure it out no matter what.
So you want to see that ability to think critically and debate and discuss stuff.
Yes, and push things forward in an intelligent way and hopefully down the right path. And so that business now is doing unbelievable.
What is the business exactly now? What did they pivot to?
They are basically a native advertising business, but it's with a visual native advertising. So it's commerce native advertising, right? Think of it as the new pop-up ad.
Got it. Interesting.
And you could go on there as a brand, as a commerce site, as anything. Very simply take their widget and go.
Interesting. I'll check that out. All right. Kitchen Surfing, Daily Worth, Food 52, Vengo Labs, Scoot Networks, Videolicious, Have to Have, Loverly, Mouth.com, previously New York Mouth. Lots of great plugs in there. Everybody follow at the Gotham Gal, at the Gotham Gal. Check out GothamGalcom, of course, her awesome blog. And Joanne at SolomonWilson.com is her email. Wow, amazing having you on the program.
It was great seeing you.
Tell a funny Jason Calacanis story from back in the day.
Oh my God, I have so many, I don't even know where to begin.
Tell one that would, because the audience, I have a lot of super fans, they're kind of obsessed with me, but tell one that's particularly embarrassing or like shows how naive and stupid I was as an early entrepreneur.
Should I tell you, so the one about how I wanted to sell your company and you didn't want to sell it?
Yeah, tell that one. What an idiot I was. The biggest mistake of my life, right? I could have made $20 million.
Well, you were obviously, landed on your feet.
Right. No, that was definitely, tell that story.
So we had built this huge business.
Yeah.
I mean, we had
millions of dollars a year in revenue.
Millions of dollars revenue. We had a glossy bound magazine that was on, every newsstand in New York, if not other places around. We had an event business, which is fantastic. I love events. You get all the money before anyone shows up for the event.
Love it.
We had started a rag, right? We had built a sales staff, right? And we had like a real business.
Yep.
And I believe there were two companies that were interested.
Mackler was interested at one point.
And there was another one too.
Somebody had, who was it?
It wasn't Hearst, but it was like a Hearst.
It was like a Hearst, somebody who was like tangentially interested.
Exactly.
Not as
interested
in Mackler.
Magazines.
Yeah.
And I think it was like $50 million they were interested.
20 million, yeah.
No.
It never got to 50.
I think there were it was a conversations that were much higher than $20 million.
Really? I'm such an idiot.
And, you were like, no,
I want to build.
No, I'm going to build. I'm going to be the next Rupert Murdoch.
That's what I wanted to be.
Right.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my God, I'm so much older than you. This is like
that much older than me.
I am. I'm 10 years older than you.
Are you? I'm 42.
I'm 51.
God, you look like we're the same age.
I'm older than you.
I need to eat more Cal. You look the same age as me. You've aged gracefully, not me.
I was like, this is a blip on the map. This whole thing is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
It is going to explode. This is your window.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
I didn't get that.
It closes a little more, and you're like, no. And I was like, I quit.
No, see, I'll tell you why, yeah.
And then I quit.
You did. I thought, see, I'll tell you what I got right and what I got wrong. What you got right was you realized it was going to implode.
Yes.
And I was looking at the big picture. They just said, well, the internet will always be big.
Yes.
Right? But I had never seen anything explode in my life. Now
I'm not so sure I did either.
Well, maybe the 88, like the stock market crash and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess.
But whatever. You saw the implosion coming. I didn't think that it was going to implode as bad as it did. But you were right. I was wrong. I should have sold. But then you know what? I think a lot of times you need to go through that as an entrepreneur and make your big mistake. You also, I always tell the story, you thought we should go national, and I was stuck on doing local. That was another big mistake that you saw way before me, but you had 10 more years experience. But I always tell people, like, you got to have
I
listen
did
to
want to
people
go
around.
national. I was all about the national.
You're like, go national. I was like, nah, I want to do New York. I think New York. And you know what? It's like, you can be right in the long term, but so wrong in the short term.
Yeah.
And then what makes you a great entrepreneur is your ability to ignore everybody and just do what you want to do. And it can be also the thing that just is your demise.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'm a grower.
Right.
I'm great at the big picture. I know how to grow things. I know how to build businesses that make money.
Right.
That I think it's innate. I've always been like that.
Yeah.
But as Fred said,
even in the schmatza business.
I made a lot of money.
Before me.
Yeah. I mean,
Fred's like, you should hire my wife to do your ad sales. Because I just put out an email like, I need an ad sales person because I can't handle all the ads that people want to put in. He said, you should talk to my wife. I was like, what's her qualification? She's like, she was in the schmatza business. I'm like, this kid from Irish kid looking. I'm like, what's a schmatza? I thought it was like a.
It's clothing.
It's clothing.
But no, I
37th
mean,
Street.
I think with the Curb it's the same thing. It's like that was my first investment, but Fred always says if you had one lemonade stand on the corner, within a year you'd want to chain across the country. And so it's sort of not surprising that I ended up with 31 businesses I'm involved in. But I love it.
Well, listen, I never got a chance to thank you, I don't think, but thank you so much for all the hard work and putting up with me. And I learned so much from you. I really, even to this day when I sell, I tell people just sell it, ask for double, because that's what you used to always do. I'd be like, maybe we could sell it for 10. And you're like, let's try 20. And then we'll discount to 15. And I was like, And to this day, I literally responded to an email today where somebody was selling the Launch Hackathon, one of our events. And they're like, I'm a little concerned because we're making this 15K and people previously paid 8. I'm like, we'll make you 15, and you can always discount it if you need to or whatever, but challenge people a little bit. You always challenge people, I think, in terms of supporting things. I think that's why you've had such a great success in your career, is that you were never afraid to challenge people to spend money on products and services, and even Mouse, which is a nonprofit, that makes the world better.
Yeah.
You got to be a little bit bold. I think you have a boldness to you.
I do have boldness to me, which I think is why sometimes I want to go with those entrepreneurs and be the one pitching.
Yeah, you want to shake them up a little bit. You say, hey, be proud of what you made.
Yeah, but I do. I spend a lot of time with them sometimes saying, hey, let's pretend that I'm the person on the other side of the table.
A little role play. You have a boldness. I think that might wind up being your legacy and the big value add you have with women founders. Because I think sometimes they are a little mousy about things. They're afraid to ask for a big number. I mean, all entrepreneurs are, but I do see it in women sometimes. They're afraid to have the big ask. Do you find that sometimes they're just afraid to just with gusto say, give me $100,000 for this product?
No, I think it's harder. I mean, there's this one entrepreneur that we just closed her Series A, which I actually led, not financially, but that's changing too.
Just led the process.
I did. Jay did the paperwork, and we led the process because you can now, right? Because there's a lot of money out there in different verticals, and the people in the verticals actually understand certain businesses. And so we just closed this round, and she was going back and forth with this one group of guys, and she's very frustrated. And I said, when you go in there, I want you to think I'm on your shoulder and think, what would a guy do? And she's like, you know what? I went, and they were like, and she said, are you guys in or out? And they were like, we're in. And she walked out. She's like, wow.
Not well, if you guys are interested, you could call me. This is my number. She's like, in or out? Let's go.
Let's go. I got things to do. I got businesses to build. You're going to invest in me or not?
Right. I'll take a quick no. I want a yes, but I'll take a quick no.
And I wish people would be better at the quick no's.
I am awesome at the quick no. I just tell people listen, it's not a fit for me. I can't help.
Which is great. I think a lot of people say, this is fantastic. Definitely get back to me. I want to hear more. And then you never can get back to them.
Right.
Why don't you just say, no, this isn't for me. It's been a pleasure. See ya.
Yeah. Or you can keep me up to date, but it's probably not a fit.
Right.
I tell people all the time, they're like, I have an ad network. I'm like, stop. I can't help an ad network. That's not what I do. I'm going to do that. Nope, stop. Right. I don't have knowledge about that. How can I be value added? I have to have value added.
Right, and I think that's really important. And I don't know why people, maybe because I was in Schmata. And maybe because I was on the other side.
You were a seller or buyer?
I was both.
Oh, right. So you got to see both sides and what worked on both sides.
Exactly.
And you saw the people who are like, listen, are you going to buy this or not? Because I got somebody online too.
Exactly.
In or out?
Yeah.
Let's get going here.
Yeah.
Listen, Joanne Wilson, not only a friend, but a mentor to me and my big sister. You've always been so good to me. I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
So I learned so much from you, and I'm so excited for you to be honored tonight. It's long overdue. If you're a startup founder, especially a female one, this is the gold standard. Joanne Wilson at the Gotham Gal. So great having you on the program, and continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.